Welcome back to the Sober Web, my friends. I am Clark. Today I'm going to talk about maybe a bit of a dicey subject, whether alcoholism is genetic or not. And it might piss some people off. It might offer some relief. I hope the latter, because ultimately I want this to actually help people know that they can overcome alcoholism. But no matter what, stick with me, watch the entire thing, because I believe that this is a really valuable topic that can help you understand and know that there is a way to become a recovered alcoholic and even a recovered addict. It's totally possible. I did it, and I believe everyone has the ability to do it as well. But before we dive into it, hit that like button if you're sober today. Leave your sober date in the comments so I can hit the like button in return and support you, and then hit that subscribe button for more content like this. But now let's talk about it. The big question, is alcoholism genetic? I don't know about you guys, but in my early sobriety when I was quitting alcohol, I ran into that question, that idea a lot. And for a long time, I felt really hopeless because it seemed like alcoholism was something that I was going to battle and deal with for the rest of my life. And honestly, that just did not sit very well with me. I did not like the idea of the label being applied to me for the rest of my life. I didn't like the idea of maybe having to constantly go to meetings or see a therapist or always have to deal with my feelings and my emotions in a way that helped me avoid alcohol. Now, my goal in all of this was never to go back to alcohol. My goal ultimately was not to be defined by alcohol or alcoholism, because I am indeed a recovered alcoholic. And I say that with confidence and pride because I no longer have the desire to drink. Because what is alcoholism? Alcoholism, the definition, is a compulsion to drink or an obsession over the alcohol or the need for it. So if I, therefore, no longer have the obsession of it, and I no longer compulsively drink it because I don't need it nor do I want it, wouldn't it make sense that I'm no longer an alcoholic? And if you're not really liking what I'm saying right now because maybe you are one that believes that alcoholism is truly genetic, hit the like button, hit the dislike button. I don't really care, because ultimately it's an important conversation to have, because I think that this mentality that it is genetic holds a lot of people back, and dare I say that maybe it's a bit of an excuse not to do the work or actually try to overcome the addictions and the alcoholism. I mean, let's put the whole genetic thing into perspective. My eyes are genetic. I can't change the color of them. Sure, I could put some contact lenses and change them for a day, but that doesn't actually change the color of my eyes. You know, I could cut my hair, I could dye it, I could change it, but it doesn't actually change the true color of my hair. I can't change the body type I've got from my family. I can't change the size of my nose, my ears. These are all genetic things that come from my mother and my father. That is genetic. Now, alcoholism, is that truly genetic? Is that truly something that we can't change? I mean, what does your gut say? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Hit the like button if you agree with me. Hit the dislike button if you don't agree with me. As long as we have a good conversation about this, that's all I really care about, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a recovered alcoholic who's gone through a lot of work, read a lot of books, done a lot of soul and shadow work to understand that I am not an alcoholic anymore, even though I battled alcoholism for 13 years from the age of 24 to 37. So in my journey, here's what I've come to understand and believe. And I kind of came to these truths through books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin, even The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. All those books you can check out. Links are in the description below. I highly recommend them for everyone, because I think that they will help when quitting alcohol or just trying to overcome addiction in general. But what I believe is ultimately going on with alcoholism, and again, just my opinion, a hypothesis, if you will, you can agree with it or disagree with it, is that maybe it's genetic in an emotional and spiritual way. It's very possible, or so I think, and let me know what you think. Alcoholism, the use of alcohol, abusing it, is habitually learned. Either we witness it as children and we see it being used to cope with emotions and trauma and hard times, and so it becomes just a subconscious way of us knowing that that's the only way that I can deal with things when they go out of control. But maybe your parents didn't drink or don't drink, but maybe their parents did. I mean, alcoholism runs on both sides of my family, but my mother and father never drank. No one would say that they were alcoholics by any means. So I was always like, well, why me? Why am I the only one that struggles with alcohol and I can't stop once I start? Because it does run in my family, but more as a toxic trait, if you will, a traumatic way of dealing with past trauma that no one in the family has actually dealt with and broken the cycle yet so far. So really, if it's genetic, it's more like it's this trauma or past generational toxicity that's imprinted onto our DNA that makes it genetic. That way, when you start struggling with alcohol and no one in your family seems to understand, maybe your immediate family, you can maybe eventually study your family lineage and see that maybe there's a history of alcoholism or addiction, and that there were others that couldn't stop once they started or just always seemed out of control, and it will help you feel a little less alone or misunderstood. So could alcoholism be genetic? Maybe, maybe not. It's up to everyone to kind of figure it out for themselves, but I already touched on this, and this is probably the part that's going to piss some people off. We can't just sit behind this idea that alcoholism is genetic because we want to avoid doing the work or truly walking away from alcohol for good. Unfortunately, I've met a lot of people who are really stuck in this mentality that they are an alcoholic for the rest of their life. They are cursed, they are diseased, they are never going to heal, they are never going to recover. That just is not enough for me. It wasn't enough for me, and I hope it's not enough for you, because you can become recovered from alcoholism. It just takes a lot of work, a lot of soul searching, a lot of shadow work to understand the why of it all. Like, when was alcoholism emotionally or spiritually imprinted on your DNA that made it become a genetic trait in your family? If you can go back and do the work and understand where it started, why it started, when it started, in order to break it for yourself, you will literally break that genetic strain, if you will, for those that come after you. Ultimately, this journey with alcoholism and my goal to overcome it is ultimately because I don't want my son to struggle with addiction and alcoholism. I want to show him how to deal with life on life's terms, how to handle fear, grief, sadness, trauma, and not have to use anything to cope with it all, just to face it head on, because all that alcoholism is, all that alcohol or addiction is just a way for us to avoid reality because we're too afraid to deal with the pain in the moment that's also pain from the past. And I know I've probably gotten a little woo-woo, a little out there with this episode, but for some reason I felt compelled to kind of make an episode on this because I hear so many people struggling with alcoholism, and it breaks my heart when they feel like there's no hope. Hopefully, most of you are listening to this and feel some hope. At least maybe there's a sliver of a light at the end of the tunnel that you can overcome it. You can be recovered. You do not have to be defined by alcoholism or addiction for the rest of your life. I really hope that you subscribe so I can support your journey, and I really, really hope that you check out the books that are in the description below. Again, The Power of Now, Breathing Underwater by Richard Rohr, It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin, and even books like This Naked Mind. They're all amazing books. I think they will help you understand your journey into addiction and out of the mentality of the past, maybe passed on to you by family members that came before. So hit the like button or hit the dislike button, depending on your thoughts on this topic. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think alcoholism or addiction is genetic, why or why not. Let me know if you agree with maybe my hypothesis on all of it. Ultimately, I just want to know that the message is being heard and discussed, because I do think it's a very, very important discussion for the recovery community to have. And of course, I really hope that you'll hit the subscribe button so that you get more content like this from me. And be sure to hit the bell, because that way you'll know when I've released an episode. And I really appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and I really hope that this video offered you something of value in return. Until next time, my friends, much love, much life. I'm Clark with the Sober Webb. Can't wait to see you at the next episode. Bye.